can still remember the emotions that the original Crow invoked inside of me when I saw it almost 30 years ago. I was just a kid. I was about 9 years old, and I had somehow gotten a hold of a VHS tape of it when me and my mom had went to the Goodwill, or it was either the Goodwill or it was some type of flea market, and they had like tapes that people had given away or sold to the flea market, and saw I saw the Crow, and it was not too long after Brandon Lee had died, had been killed on set of the Crow. And so I figured I would go and I would give it a watch, when I was a kid, because growing up I was allowed to watch movies that I shouldn't have been as a kid allowed to watch. Not necessarily anything that would be sexual, but it was more along, the violent type of movies. It was, in my household, we watched a lot of the Lethal Weapons and Dirty Harrys and Rambos, and I had so many Steven Seagal tapes. For some reason, as a kid, I had this weird fixation on Steven Seagal. Maybe it was because I thought like what he did back in those days was martial arts, but whatever. But that's beside the point. I got my hand on the Crow, and I watched it, and it freaked me out when I first viewed it. It freaked me out, and it also fascinated me, and it entertained me, and it was the only movie that could actually achieve those three phenomena all at once. And I kept on watching it. I would watch it and rewatch it and pause at certain points here and just like analyze the hell out of it, because there was something that was so enthralling about Brandon Lee's performance as the Crow that even to this day, it's just kind of hard for me to just see it as just like another actor that did a movie, and unfortunately he got killed on set. But I mean, even to this day, it's just like it was, for that to be his swan song, for that to be his last performance. He did a damn good job, and for him to not even know that that would be the last movie that he would ever be, you would have never guessed that. You would have thought that he went into it knowing that he would never make another movie again. You know the way he played that role, I mean, he just played his heart out. One scene that really got me was how Shelly's sister was had gotten pissed off at him, and she said that he didn't even care, and it was getting towards the end of the movie, and and he had fully had of course at this time had truly embraced his Crow persona, and he had and he told her that he did care, and they reconciled. And even in that state that he was in, I mean, even though he was like this supernatural undead creature, he still had that humanity of him. He still was Eric Draven, He wasn't just the Crow, but he was still Eric Draven. He was still trying. I mean, he was making amends with not just by going out and killing the people who had killed him and Shelley, but he was also making amends with those who were uh, were a part of their family and trying to reunite with them and trying to heal the wounds that were left behind by their deaths. And another powerful scene that got me was like when Shelley and her sister's mother, the sister, the little girl, the sister, I can't remember her name. I mean, I can remember Eric Draven, I can remember Shelley, Top Dollar, 1010, and and some of the guys that that had killed him and stuff. I can't remember like the black police officer's name or Shelley's sister's name, but their mother was a drug addict, and she was dating one of the guys that had killed her, that had killed Shelley and had killed Draven. And after the Crow shows up and he does his thing on the dude that had killed him and stuff. He gets their mother, and he, like, through like his supernatural whatever and stuff, he works the drugs out. I don't know if that was like one of his powers or you could actually do that to somebody in real life, but he actually forced the drugs out. And what I mean? And he like whispered this like real, like, creepy, cryptic shit into her ear. And that was like, and they had me like just rewinding it back and forth, back and forth. And for as much as that movie creeped me out, I couldn't get enough of it because it was so dark, it was so edgy, but then at the same time, it was so beautiful. At the same time, it was so poignant. That's the term that I'm looking for. It was just, the movie didn't lay it. I mean, it didn't lay it on too thick. It didn't really have to. It didn't really have to try. It was so just, it was deep, and it was effortlessly deep at that. Because I truly believe that there was no pretentiousness behind it. Now anymore in Hollywood, there's pretentiousness. There's this, everything is fake. Everything is fake. Nothing has a soul anymore. Nothing is done with emotions. You go to the uh, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and just to segue into that, and scenes that are supposed to be emotional, scenes that are supposed to be deep, are undercut by stupid jokes, non-jokes, corny jokes. Uh, there's no sense of hurt, or that you don't really get to experience the pain that the characters are feeling in movies anymore. It's all designed to not even be like, to not even have cheap emotion. Is to not have emotion. Is to escape the emotion through either dumbass humor or just fakery. It just feels like fakery. And then and then I think about like works like The Crow. The Crow was about so many things. It was so about so much many things like justice and revenge and redemption. And it's just, it just hit all at once for me watching it. It just hit all at once. They tried to make sequels of it, and nothing nothing that they made as sequel wise of The Crow uh, ever came close to the original, because you really ain't. The Crow is not something that you can make sequels out of. You make the story of The Crow as trying to sequel, trying to franchise it. It was meant to be one story, and it was meant to be the story that stood alone. And I say that knowing, knowing that they are going to make a reboot of The Crow, going to do a remake of it, which in of itself is, in my opinion, highly disrespectful to the memory of Brandon Lee. But then what's even more disrespectful is how uh, they're going to choose to handle the character of Eric Draven, which Brandon Lee not only poured his heart and soul into, but he gave his life bringing Eric Draven to life. You know, he literally gave his life playing that role. And now they're going to turn Eric Draven into a crackhead who escaped from rehab. Him and Shelley are going to be these drug addicts that escaped from rehab, and for whatever reason, the big bad in the movie is going to have his boys go and find him and kill him, and so, you know, the story, Eric Draven is going to come back to life, but he's not going to be the Crow. He's not even really, and the creators said so themselves, that they're not even going to have him assume the mantle of the Crow until like the last act of the Crow. He's essentially going to be a dude that somehow came back to life. He's not going to have the supernatural powers that he had. He's going to feel all the pain that the bad guys inflict on him, you know, post his resurrection. When he gets shot, when he gets stabbed, when he gets hit, he's going to feel it, and it's going to take longer for him to heal, which is totally outside of the original Crow's power set. Eric Draven could literally get a hole blasted in him, and the damn thing would heal within seconds. Also, the Crow is not going to be his guide in the living world to seek his revenge against those who killed him. In the original, the Crow was like his eyes and ears. The Crow helped him find those who had wronged him, and now the Crow is not even going to really even feature heavily into the movie. The Crow is just going to be just a bird, one of many excuse me, one of many birds that is just flying around. And Eric Draven, now that he has come back to life, is going to essentially be an undead Batman, because he's going to be like the world's greatest detective and hunt down the people who had killed him and Shelley. And he's going to have to do it on his own. So with that being said, and also the bad guys are no longer going to be street thugs. They're going to be these corporate douchebags, not the ones that killed him. The head bad guy, he's going to be played by some guy that last name Houston, Eric Houston or something like that. I can't remember what his name is, but he's gonna be this like evil CEO, which all bad guys nowadays are evil CEOs. All head bad guys are CEOs. They're essentially taking the entire story that Brandon Lee died trying to bring into existence, and they're just going to desecrate it with their woke modern Hollywood nonsense, and take something that was so laden with emotion and so laden with angst, and but also at the same time some kind of way, even given the subject matter of it, hope. And they're just going to turn it into this corporate soulless cash grab like they've done with every other genre that they have gotten their hands on, every other iconic series that they've ever gotten their hands on. And it makes me think of like of Star Wars. You had these three perfect stories, and they weren't perfect because they didn't have flaws. They were perfect because you could see the creators heart and soul put into all three films, and there was a mysticism to it, and there were things within those stories that were not meant to be explained. And then you have these people who are wanting to get a quick check, and they don't care what they disrespect in the process. So they come out with these prequels that explain things that were never meant to be explained. They were meant to stand on their own, and there was meant to be an element of mystery and mysticism to it. And then by explaining it, you take away that mystery, you take away that mysticism, you take away that element of allowing people to use their own imagination of what the like things like the force and all that was meant to be, and you take it away by explaining it and explaining the circumstances that led to that. And they're doing the same thing with The Crow. They're having Eric Draven go to the land of the dead. And okay, so the land of the dead existed in the original Crow, but you were never meant to see what the land of the dead looked like, or the underworld, or whatever it was meant to look like. The writers, the directors, uh, James O'Barr that created the comic book, he wanted you to use your imagination, because that was part of the story, was you using your imagination for the thing to visualize the things that they didn't show in the comic book or they didn't show in the movie. But in typical modern Hollywood fashion, they're going and they're ruining the imagination. They're showing you things that you were not meant to see. They're telling you things that you're not meant to know. They're not allowing you to use your own mind to come to your own conclusions, because they figure as the audience we're stupid and we can't use our mind's eye to imagine what things is. And that's part of the story. That's the part of the great thing about telling a story, is that the people that you're telling the story to, your audience, you allow them to use their imagination to piece together the things that you leave out. But in today's world, we're not allowed to do that. In today's world, everything has to be spoon fed to us, and we have to have all the answers given to us, and we're not allowed to arrive at the answers ourselves. Our corporate overlords, those that are our quote unquote betters, they just give us the answers. Like it's a math, like we're cheating on a math test or something. we're not treated like adults. We're treated like children, not just like children, but like special needs children. And I just find it disgusting. I find these individuals in Hollywood, they have no respect for anything. They uh they took something that was meant to a story that was meant to be about justice for victims, and they have now taken that and they've then debased it to now it's generic edgy dude has, generic edgy dude has come back from the dead, and he has to, and not only is he an undead killing machine, but now he's like the world's greatest detective and all of this. And it's like, why do they do this? Why is, now you're dancing on the grave of Brandon Lee. Now his family has to watch you disrespect him. And what are they to say? What can they say? Those of his family that are left. And I just, where does it end? Where does it end with these people? I brought up Star Wars, I brought up the MCU, but these people, none of these people died making these films. Brandon Lee, died making making this film. He died for this work of art, and now they've then trounced all upon it. And like I said, where does it end? And that's all I can say.